Hello, I'm Luke Darcy. Welcome to the 2012 wash-up for the Kangaroos. Damien Barrett is with me. And Damo, I thought North were great. Fantastic finish to the season. 12 of 14 wins in the run home. And then they got smashed in the final to the tune of 96 points. Was it a good thing to make the final, or were they maybe better off having got close and not had to live with that loss for the whole year?
I think what it proved them to us was how far off the pace they really are. And as such, I think there's an argument to be mounted that they would have been better off to miss the finals than be subjected to that loss. But their last two home and away matches were pretty ordinary. The Fremantle loss and then the ordinary last round win and then that final. It just leaves North people with a real awareness of what is required to be achieved now, and they're a long way off.
Let's start with the season highlight for season 2012 for North Melbourne. And they knocked off some big scouts, Damo. Started with the Cats in round 3, and I thought something they hadn't done in previous seasons was beat the big clubs in big occasions. Collingwood in round 21 was a really big win for North Melbourne as well.
Yeah, I agree, Das. The stretch of matches, as you referred to off the top, was the impressive part, but it was the scalps that was the most pleasing part for Brad Scott. And even if you go to a round 1 loss with a kick after the siren to Essendon at the time was firing, they fixed up Essendon later in the season. There were some good scalps amongst their victories this year, which was the most pleasing aspect.
Yeah, there we see the Blues win in round 16. Really set the tone, a massive win over the Carlton Football Club. A low light, as I mentioned off the top for me, was the elimination final thrashing to the tune of 96 points over in the West. And they really got off to a horrible start, and it just got worse. The middle part of the game, they actually gave and got a little bit of ground back, but the final quarter was just a total blow. I'm a bit the other way, Dame. I think the fact that they have played this game, they now are 100% aware of where they're at as a football club, and they're a fair way behind being able to compete in a big final against a club like West Coast on its home ground. The positive out of that game, though, was that their midfielders actually competed pretty well. They got hammered in the defensive part of the ground. Their forwards didn't fire at all. So even though it was a big loss, I think there was a little bit of positive to take out of it.
You'd also argue the fact they performed well and still had a result like that is, part of where they're at. For me, Das, the highlight that I had was was Jack Ziebell's incident there on Aaron Joseph. Now, to me, we were big on this at the time. I still cannot believe he got 4 weeks for that. Now, I know that it was a downgrade if had he taken an early plea, but he went to the tribunal and got 4 weeks for that. And to me, he was going for the football. I would have copped 1 or 2, but not 4, and I reckon that was the worst decision made.
I think that's one of the low lights of the season for me, to be honest with you. It changed really the way players are able to attack the ball. Let's hand out some Christmas bonuses for North Melbourne in 2012. And I'd like to start with their skipper, Andrew Swallow. And this was a tackle he laid in the first final, chasing down Andrew Embley. He's the #1 tackler in the game. And I reckon the captaincy just was something that he took on beautifully. Averaged 26 disposals. He's an out-and-out elite midfielder in the competition and leads by example. He's a great off-field leader, a great personality, and someone that you can build your club around, Andrew Swallow. Yeah, there was a bit of talk, wasn't there, when he got the captaincy over Drew Petrie. Wasn't the right choice for his stage of his career, but what he showed this year does absolutely endorse that decision. You got a bonus to hand out, though? Yeah, I do. It's for Lee Adams, who, as we know, missed the latter part of the season when his shoulders finally gave way. But he's had serious issues with both shoulders, was chicken winged by Chris Judd, kept playing, but in the end, they both kept popping out. And he was a huge loss for them, Darcy, and a bigger loss than I think people actually realised at the time. All right, hard decision time now for North Melbourne Dome. I'm going to put a couple on the chopping block here. And I hate to say it, but the big forwards, Aaron Edwards and Ben McKinley, I think they might find themselves in that situation where it's make or break for them. Hansen and Robbie Tarrant have gone past those two. Yeah. I'm not sure whether there's a place for them at North Melbourne next year. No, I think you summed that up fairly accurately, Das. Hamish McIntosh is the one I reckon's in obviously trouble because had the knee injury mid-season, Das, but just wasn't at all teaming well with Goldstein when they both tried to play as dual ruckman, and Goldstein blossomed when he was out of the team, and then Hamish couldn't get back in late, and he's been a regular talking point in trade week and will be so again this year. At his best, can seriously play Hamish McIntosh. I still think he's got some currency, but as you said, maybe on the open market. What do they need to do, Damo, to step up in 2013? Just need someone with a bit of class and polish to add to Daniel Wells in that mix when it comes to the on-ball status. Das. A lot of grunt going around there, and they certainly improved in that front this year, but they need someone else, which is why they wanted to get Travis Boak to help out that system, but they've missed out on him, obviously. But someone of that calibre, as unlikely as it is almost crucial for North. Yours? I think they need some defensive help. I really like Scotty Thompson as a player. Conceded a lot of goals this year, and he sometimes gets manhandled a bit by the big power forwards, the big gorillas. Grime a bit undersized as well. Ferrito's tried to play above his weight division a lot, but just some help there. They've tried Hansen down back, but I just think maybe it's all-over defence that's going to help that undersized back line to compete a bit stronger.
Now, 2013, where will they be?
Well, I had them outside the 8 this year, so I think getting inside the 8 was above prediction for me. I reckon they're stagnating. Yep. For me in 2013. That is a good result. If they finish inside the top 8 again, I reckon it's another good year.
Yeah, I've got the same, Das. What they need to do, though, is finish 5th, 6th, 7th or 8th, but actually be competitive in a final, which is what they weren't in 2012.
Thank you, Damo. That is the wash-up for the North Melbourne Football Club in season 2012. Time for the 2012 wash-up on the Geelong Football Club, and Damien Barrett is with me. And an end of an era for Geelong, Damo, or do you think that they can be a contender again in 2013?
No, the era's finished, us. 3 of the previous 5 premierships bundled out of the finals this year early in un-Geelong-like fashion, and that's it. I mean, they'll be competitive, they'll be thereabouts, but when you're talking premierships, not next year.
I think one of the highlights of 2012 from a Geelong point of view for me was a courageous act. In fact, one of the most courageous things I've seen. And I want to go back first of all to Tom Lonergan, who lost his kidney in this incident. Yep. Smashed Indu with unbelievable
2006
courage.
That was, Das.
2006.
A long time ago in a footy sense now.
And then you fast forward to round 21 and Reece Stanley and Tom Lonergan collide. How about the courage required to do that? Having lost a kidney, to have no regard for your own safety, got up. And his comment after the game, he said, well, it was a side where I haven't got a kidney, so I actually felt like there wasn't a lot to lose. But really brave player. I thought Tom Lonergan's season in general was just sensational.
I'm glad he got the kudos for doing what he did there, and it was just widely respected by everyone, wasn't it? Das, one I liked out of the year was just the absolutely refreshing honesty of Chris Scott, the coach, in so many media conferences. There are so many people in footy now with positions of power and authority who are just dry and bland and give us nothing in the media. Not Chris Scott, though. Look, he made some pretty provocative comments at times on WA fans. He was happy to have a go at the match review panel. Even had a go at Ross Lyon before the first final when Ross Lyon had to go at his players. But no, I loved it. He had a crack at the AFL and got away with it. Did it in a way where he wasn't getting fined every week too.
They're absolute rippers, the Scott brothers, and Chris was sensational. Low light for Geelong for me, Damo, was the unnecessary suspensions to some of their gun players. And Matty Scarlett in round 1 decided to punch Hayden Ballantyne.
That's a highlight in the eyes of some, though, does.
Half the AFL playing list thinks that is a highlight, but it wasn't great for the club. This is Wojcinski on young Jack Viney, and he got suspended in the VFL. Bartel and off the ball incident, that really hurt them at a crucial stage in the year. And Stevie Johnson's one we know that cost him a spot in the final, and maybe ultimately cost them a final. They lost it by less than 3 goals in the end, and the suspensions really hurt. Low light for you, Damo?
Yeah, it's Daniel Menzel going down again, Das. As we know, he was going to be playing in a premiership last year until he did his knee in the finals last year. Comeback match here in the VFL, and down again, and has another 12 months on the sidelines as a result of that. They love him down there, they respect him, and they respect him for his off-field talents as much as he's on, because he's a good bloke, but he's going to be lost for the game for a little bit longer yet.
Let's hand out some Christmas bonuses, Damo, and one that I want to start with is an exciting young player for the Cats. Nathan Vardy was told after his second hip operation that he'd never play the game again, and then as close as 4 weeks out from the finals, there was no chance to play. Played 2 VFL games, they rushed him back in. Brilliant effort from him. He is a sensationally exciting player, Nathan Vardy. Probably along with Menzel, I reckon, are their most talented young players in the game. So to get back into the side and to show some of these glimpses, that is a brilliant thing.
Well, that's his return game there where he kicked that goal. Going to be teaming up, isn't he, for some time with Tom Hawkins, who is the guy I think should get the Christmas bonus. So happy to admit, Das, and wrongly, I'd had the slides on him for some time, but what he did this year just elevated him into that level where you just rely on him now every single week. And is he the most important player now?
Close to it, isn't it? You don't get big key position forwards that can take contested marks. The grand final year last year, where he stood up and turned the game around, and it was great to see him then take his game to a whole new level, doing this on a regular occasion.
That's the bonuses we've just given out there. Das, who are you going to put on the chopping block for the Cats?
I just want to relive that one moment one more time, Damo. That kick from Tom Hawkins was just insane. I love the reaction and the crowd get around him. But yeah, time to put someone on the chopping block, Damo. That's never an easy thing to do, except on this occasion, because Shannon Burns, I think, will play in the VFL Grand Final coming up shortly. But I think as a restricted free agent, his own team, he needs to find another club. So it's one of those easy conversations to have. He needs to find a new home. And I think he's got an opportunity to play somewhere else. He's been linked to Melbourne. I think Shannon Burns will find somewhere else. Who are you going to put on the chopping block?
Well, it's a bit of a harsh call, but I'm going to put Oren Stevenson on, Dar. So got to go.
A bit of
late.
a harsh call.
A very harsh call, but that's what we're doing on this show. I mean,
it's one of the positive news stories of the year. 29-year-old comes in, plays a year. Surely you give him another 12 months.
Well, as you highlighted, Vardy being back in that team means he won't be playing. And it's unfortunate because I love those stories of guys toiling for a long time in the lower leagues and getting a crack. But he had a crack and he's not going to have an impact next year.
You really love those stories. You're really supportive of them moving on. What do they need to step up next year, Damo?
Look, I just think they actually need a back down there to help out with Scarlett not being there next year, Das. They're going to need some support down there. And they're looking and they can manufacture something even if they don't replace him. You don't replace him, but they need some form of support for Lonergan and co down there.
Yeah, and some ruck support is a concern. Dawson Simpson probably not going to be able to step up. He's been in the system for 5 years. West is around the mark, but hasn't really taken to it with both hands. You've just put a rule through Stephenson. Nathan Vardy is the one. I'd just be so excited about putting all your focus in to turn him into an elite player, and he could be the best ruckman in the competition with that sort of ability. Where are they going to finish in 2013?
Well, I think it's down to us, and given they lost an elimination final this year, that could well be out of the 8. Look, they're going to hover around about, so whether they make it or not, I think it's irrelevant to the big picture because they are in a semi-rebuild, as much as they don't like to admit it, and it'll be slightly down to what they did in 2012.
I think next year's the year where they do play the younger players, Damo, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised. They'll go down next year. I wouldn't be surprised 2014, 2015, you see a club of this calibre able to bounce back up and compete strong in the finals. Damo, that has been the wash-up for Geelong in season 2012.